Discipline is praised as the virtue of kings and scholars, yet Machiavelli teaches us its hidden tyranny. The world tells you to measure yourself by strict routines, to sacrifice desire for the illusion of control, to submit to schedules as though mastery lies in repetition. But the disciplined man is a predictable man, a book whose pages can be read, manipulated, and ultimately destroyed. Every rigid habit you honor, every clockwork ritual you obey, becomes a tool in the hands of those who understand human behavior. Your will is bound by invisible chains, forged not by others' force, but by your own relentless compliance. Discipline, in its purest form, is a surrender of adaptability, a relinquishment of chaos that is the true source of power. To obey yourself too strictly is to become a known quantity, a target. This video will expose why the very trait celebrated as control is often the greatest vulnerability, and how understanding this paradox allows you to wield your choices as weapons while others remain shackled by their self-imposed order. Watch closely, observe deliberately, and let Machiavelli's eyes guide you through this inversion of virtue, because those who learn will move unseen, while the obedient remain exposed. Rule 1. Predictability is a prison. Patterns offer the illusion of safety. In social hierarchies, humans instinctively seek predictability, equating repeated behavior with trustworthiness. Yet this very repetition constructs an invisible cage. Every ritual, every habitual response creates a map of intentions and weaknesses, one that competitors, observers, and manipulators can read with precision. Predictability becomes a silent leash, binding its possessor without their awareness. The moment you cling to consistency, a quiet vulnerability blooms inside you. You may feel secure, armored by your routines, yet every repeated gesture whispers your next move to those watching. Your colleagues, rivals, even casual acquaintances begin to anticipate your decisions long before you act. The power you believe lies in discipline is, in truth, a gift you offer others, a roadmap of your mind left exposed. Machiavelli reminds us that humans fear uncertainty, yet paradoxically, they prize those who are perfectly predictable. Your habits, your schedules, your rigid adherence to order, they are not symbols of mastery. They are invitations to be cornered. Fear is subtle, creeping in as you convince yourself that repetition is control. You measure your worth in compliance to clocks, to rules, to routines, believing mastery is achieved through rigidity. But every clockwork action you take signals weakness. They see the pattern. They understand the rhythm of your stress, the cadence of your reactions. In meetings, in negotiations, in social observation, they anticipate you. And while you pride yourself on preparation, they exploit you with effortless precision. To rise above this silent surrender, you must shatter your predictability in ways that unsettle without revealing your intent. Introduce anomalies into your behavior, like deliberate staccato notes in a symphony. Break sequence at moments only you control. Let the world believe they understand you. Then strike with movements they cannot anticipate. The disciplined surrender, the silent advantage of unpredictability. You will learn to weaponize it. Desire, fear, curiosity. These are instruments, and predictability is a muted, broken string. When your days are identical, your choices rehearsed, you relinquish the opportunity to observe the reactions of others. They begin to act freely, revealing secrets and weaknesses you could have exploited. If only your own behavior were not a mirror of rigidity. Machiavelli teaches that mastery lies in being known only when you choose to be. Let your routines be camouflage, your predictable exterior, a mask behind which subtle chaos thrives. You must train yourself to appear habitual, obedient, controlled, while the calculus of your mind remains invisible, adaptive, and lethal. Every relationship, every negotiation, every subtle power play hinges on the information others gather about you. The disciplined surrender this advantage willingly. Your repetition becomes their leverage. Observe this truth coldly. Control is never in obedience. It is in manipulation of expectation. You will feel a pang of unease as you introduce deliberate disorder, as you break patterns, as you distort what others assume is your predictable nature. That unease is the price of power, the psychological edge over those who remain shackled by self-imposed order. Your unpredictability becomes the blade in shadows, unseen until it severs influence, trust, or control from those who misread you. The stark truth remains. Predictability is a prison, and every routine is a lock forged by your own hands. To dominate, you cannot simply obey yourself. You must obey strategy. Turn the illusion of order into a weapon. Break cadence without notice. Let others fall into the rhythm you abandon at will. Discipline is a chain. Mastery is the art of removing it only for those who watch too closely, leaving them exposed to the silent, inhuman calculation of your mind. Rule 2. Obedience to routine breeds blindness. Humans are drawn to repetition as if it grants clarity, yet the disciplined mind often becomes blind to nuance. Routines simplify perception, compress attention, and narrow awareness. Each repeated action sharpens efficiency while dulling observation. The world shifts around those who cling to habit, but they march forward with tunnel vision, oblivious to subtle changes in alliances, threats, and opportunity. Their predictability is not only exploitable, it is self-limiting. By committing to the same paths, they surrender the chance to see the fractures forming in the lives of others, the vulnerabilities that could be leveraged for silent dominance. A cold unease grows within you as the patterns you honor blind you to reality. You feel competent, orderly, prepared. But in truth, repetition dulls the senses that matter. You fail to notice hesitation in a partner, an unguarded expression in a rival, the tiny tremor that signals impending betrayal. Machiavelli exposes this quietly, devastating truth. Obedience to routine breeds a tunnel vision of time and behavior. Your focus narrows to the mechanics of habit, while the world bends unpredictably around you. You will sense the irritation of inefficiency creeping into interactions, the frustration of opportunity slipping through unnoticed. That irritation is not weakness. It is a signal of power lost, a warning that observation has been sacrificed for the comfort of structure. Your fear of chaos reinforces this trap. You continue to obey schedules, to ritualize response, to confine creativity to predetermined channels, imagining that control is achieved through repetition. Meanwhile, those attuned to subtle shifts manipulate the patterns you enforce. They know that the disciplined cannot adapt without breaking their own internal order. You have become a predictable instrument in a symphony conducted by others, each note anticipated, each response mapped. Machiavelli teaches that mastery lies not in blind adherence, but in the strategic use of flexibility. To remain shackled to routine is to surrender the battlefield before it is even contested. You must learn to observe what the obedient ignore, to act in spaces they leave vacant, and to exploit the blindness that discipline instills. Chaos, when harnessed deliberately, becomes a tool to disrupt perception and reveal secrets. By breaking patterns subtly, you force others to expose their weaknesses, to act without the comfort of expectation. The disciplined falter because their minds cannot bend outside the frame they have constructed. You, in contrast, will manipulate your own routines, appearing reliable while moving unpredictably, testing assumptions, and harvesting the data others leave in haste. Machiavelli reminds that knowledge is the ultimate weapon. When you combine observation with controlled deviation, you gain power not through obedience, but through the exploitation of the obedient. The final realization strikes cold. Routine is a sedative, a veil that conceals the opportunities you fail to seize. To be truly dominant, you cannot let obedience blind you. You must integrate chaos as an ally, flexibility as armor, and silence as a shield. Those who cannot see beyond habit are trapped, exposed, easily manipulated. You, by contrast, move unseen in the spaces they leave unattended, observing, calculating, and striking with precision. Obedience to routine is not strength. It is the slow erosion of power. To master the environment, you must rise above habit, bending the predictable into a weapon and watching the blind stumble into the traps your mind has prepared. Rule 3. Passion is a weapon, not a liability. Humans often believe that the suppression of desire is strength, yet the opposite is true. The disciplined extinguish impulses to maintain order, unknowingly neutralizing the very forces that command attention and influence. Passion, when unchecked by routine, creates unpredictability, urgency, and a presence that others cannot ignore. Those who eliminate it appear inert, their movements easily dismissed, their intentions transparent, leaving them vulnerable to manipulation and control. A heat rises within you when you feel constrained by order, a quiet frustration that demands release. That frustration is not weakness, it is potential. The world underestimates those who allow controlled bursts of emotion to surface, who manipulate fervor as a tool rather than a flaw. Machiavelli emphasizes, those who master their internal fire do not burn themselves. They illuminate paths, invisible to the obedient, manipulating attention, loyalty, and fear. You will notice that markets, social arenas, and interpersonal dynamics bend to the impassioned, chaotic actors while the disciplined are ignored. Let your intensity emerge strategically. Allow it to unsettle, to command focus, to create uncertainty in those who assume predictability is mastery. Every deliberate surge of emotion becomes leverage. You feel the weight of attention as others react to the energy you release. You sense the subtle shifts in their confidence, the hesitation in their responses. Discipline is a cage, but when passion is weaponized, it becomes a tool of silent dominance. Your unpredictability, fueled by controlled intensity, fractures the assumptions of the disciplined around you. Their calm masks weakness. Your calculated storm becomes authority. The secret is not abandonment, but integration, melding order with bursts of fervor to manipulate perception, unsettle expectation, and claim the space that the obedient cannot reach. Controlled passion is not chaos. It is dominance made visible. Rule 4. Flexibility conceals true power. Rigidity creates vulnerability in every social and strategic interaction. Those who adhere strictly to rules and routines are easy to predict, easy to corner, and easy to manipulate. Patterns of behavior become maps for rivals, revealing weaknesses without resistance. Influence belongs to those who can bend without breaking, who exploit the blind spots created by the disciplined. Power does not announce itself. It lurks in the subtle pauses, the concealed deviations, the unobserved calculations that dictate outcomes. A tension coils within you when you realize how predictable your own habits make you. That tension is not weakness, it is insight. You see the eyes tracking your movements, the minds cataloging your routines, and the opportunities slipping away while you maintain order. Machiavelli calls this the mastery of silence. The disciplined, obeying habit becomes your mask, while your mind navigates chaos freely. You will learn to wear obedience as camouflage, projecting reliability while bending circumstance behind the scenes. Each calculated deviation becomes a tool, each break in expectation a lever to manipulate those who assume they understand you. Your actions, once mechanical, must acquire the fluidity of smoke. You feel the satisfaction of unseen control as others attempt to predict you, only to miscalculate. Flexibility allows you to retreat and advance without revealing intent, to manipulate outcomes while remaining invisible. In public, you appear constrained, obedient, even predictable. In private, you reshape the environment to your will, exploiting the rigidity of others. Discipline becomes the mask for a mind that never obeys fully, that adapts, manipulates, and dominates. True power is not in rigidity. It is in the invisible sway, the silent command, the ability to let others think they hold leverage while you quietly dictate the board. Rule 5. The tyranny of self-expectation. Humans who pursue relentless standards for themselves often become their own captors. Every hour measured, every task executed perfectly, constructs invisible chains that tighten with each success. The disciplined believe that constant self-control is strength, yet this very adherence produces collapse before any external challenge arrives. Patterns of perfection reveal themselves to observers, offering rivals maps to anticipate failure, and the obedient are cornered by the very rules they enforce. A tight pressure coils in your chest as you chase flawlessness, a quiet dread that accompanies every misstep, no matter how small. That dread is not weakness. It is the signal of vulnerability others will exploit. Machiavelli warns that self-expectation is the quietest form of oppression. You feel the exhaustion of constant vigilance, the invisible cage of perfection, yet most around you cannot see the subtle cracks you leave in the process. To rise above, you must weaponize expectation. Let your rigor mislead. Allow others to assume you are bound by routine, and then shatter their assumptions with carefully orchestrated deviations. Your failures become tools, a mask behind which your mind navigates freely, bending outcomes while they remain blind to your strategy. Every rigid self-imposed rule becomes a lever for manipulation when used with intent. You sense the anticipation of observers, their assumptions about your limitations, and the silent advantage it grants you. Discipline without awareness is slavery. Discipline mastered as strategy is dominance. By controlling what others perceive as your obedience, you construct the illusion of restriction, while your cognition roams untethered, calculating, adapting. Each deviation is a stroke of unseen power. Each moment of calculated imperfection, a revelation of authority. You feel the thrill of being underestimated, the satisfaction of moving in plain sight while invisible influence takes hold. The stark realization emerges. The tyranny you impose upon yourself is the very tool that, once mastered, becomes a weapon against the world. Self-expectation, when unexamined, is a cage. When understood, it is a lever of dominance. Control yourself only to deceive others into believing you are constrained, while in truth, your mind shapes events undetected. In the game of influence, perception is leverage, and your disciplined mask conceals the freedom and power that the obedient will never possess. Rule 6. Discipline masks weakness, not strength. Many assume that strict routine signifies superiority, Yet the disciplined often hide behind their order to mask fear. Predictable schedules, measured reactions, and rigid rituals give the appearance of control, but this control is superficial. Machiavelli observes that those who rely solely on discipline fear chaos, uncertainty, and the unexpected. They cling to structure as a shield against their own insecurity. To the casual observer, their mastery seems elegant, precise, unassailable. But to a strategist, it is a vulnerability, an exposed weakness, waiting to be exploited. Those who measure themselves by the clock become easy to corner, predictable to rivals, and incapable of responding when deception or sudden opportunity arises. A cold awareness sharpens within you as you see how obedience to routine limits perception and flexibility. That awareness is not guilt. It is insight, a weapon in itself. You feel the invisible chains of your own predictability and recognize the advantage it offers to the attentive observer. Machiavelli teaches that mastery lies in disguise. Make your order apparent while concealing your adaptability. Your routines should act as camouflage, projecting reliability. While your mind navigates unpredictably behind the mask, you will notice how others assume they understand your capacity, misread your intentions, and leave openings that only someone aware of the hidden calculus can exploit. Each apparent act of obedience becomes a strategic lure, each repeated gesture a tool to misdirect, manipulate, and command without detection. Fear of deviation has trapped the disciplined for centuries. They tremble at the thought of imperfection, while those who harness unpredictability move with silent authority. You must cultivate the same invisible freedom. Let your patterns suggest predictability. Let your calculated behaviors convince others you are bound by routine. Meanwhile, your decisions, actions, and strategies unfold beyond observation. Machiavelli observes that discipline is not power. It is camouflage. By mastering the art of concealed adaptability, you exploit the blind confidence of those who mistake order for mastery. The thrill of unseen control will become apparent as you observe others falter, revealing secrets, weaknesses, and intentions while you remain untouchable. Each interaction, each negotiation, each subtle maneuver is now yours to orchestrate. Hidden behind the guise of routine, obedience becomes your mask. Flexibility, cunning, and unpredictability your weapon. Those who depend on discipline alone remain vulnerable, exposed, and manipulable. You, by contrast, wield the illusion of order to move freely, unseen, and devastatingly effective. The ultimate truth crystallizes. The disciplined are rarely strong. They are afraid. True power lies not in rigid obedience, but in the careful combination of apparent predictability and concealed mastery. By understanding this, you turn what others praise as control into your own silent advantage, bending circumstance, perception, and expectation to your will without revealing a single thread of your strategy. Rule 7. The paradox of consistency. Humans naturally seek patterns, trusting repetition as a measure of reliability and strength. Yet the disciplined, in their quest for flawless consistency, provide others with a roadmap to their thoughts, intentions, and vulnerabilities. Every repeated gesture, every predictable response creates a framework that rivals, colleagues, and observers exploit. Machiavelli reveals the dark inversion of this virtue. What appears as mastery is often a vector for manipulation. The consistent are easily cornered, their behaviors anticipated, their decisions exploited. In business, social hierarchies, and personal relationships, the disciplined become transparent. a predictable instrument in the hands of those who notice and act. A subtle unease grows when you realize that your predictability empowers others. That unease is not weakness. It is insight, the foundation for strategic disruption. You feel the tension of expectations, the assumptions imposed by those who monitor patterns and rely on them to control you. Machiavelli teaches that consistency without calculation is submission. You must learn to appear orderly, dependable, and bound by habit while selectively introducing disruption into your routines. Break cadence at precise moments, vary responses, and allow calculated deviations to unsettle those who presume to know your limits. Your failures become camouflage, your irregularities, tools of influence. Each controlled breach of expectation destabilizes observers, forcing them to reconsider assumptions while you remain in command. The disciplined suffer under the weight of their own reliability. They falter when circumstances deviate from expectation, when opportunities arise unexpectedly, or when rivals act outside conventional boundaries. You, in contrast, will bend consistency to serve strategy. Each habitual pattern you maintain should be a lure, each predictable behavior a calculated trap. Machiavelli emphasizes that the elite exploit the very attribute that enslaves the obedient, the illusion of stability. You must observe the anticipations of others, understand the ways in which they rely on your consistency, and shatter those perceptions in moments of maximal advantage. Your controlled unpredictability becomes a weapon, a silent form of dominance that leaves rivals exposed and vulnerable. Power does not reside in routine alone. It lives in the tension between expectation and surprise. You sense the subtle satisfaction of invisible control as others stumble in response to calculated inconsistencies, revealing weaknesses they thought hidden. Consistency, when weaponized, becomes an instrument to manipulate perception, bend decisions, and orchestrate outcomes without confrontation. The disciplined collapse under their own predictability, trapped in the very structures they trust. You, by contrast, leverage these structures, reshaping the environment to your advantage while remaining undetected, untouchable, and psychologically superior. The final truth emerges cold and inescapable. Consistency is a paradox. It can enslave or empower, betray or conceal, destroy or control. The disciplined see only obligation. The elite see leverage. Mastery lies not in blind repetition, but in the strategic use of expectation and deviation, bending perception and circumstance to a silent, unseen will. By weaponizing consistency, you transform a supposed virtue into a relentless instrument of psychological domination. Rule 8. Mastery lies beyond obedience. The disciplined equate mastery with repetition, believing that relentless adherence to routines breeds control. Yet, in truth, mastery emerges only when habit is transcended. Those bound by clockwork predictability may appear capable, but they remain servants to structure, incapable of bending circumstances to their will. Machiavelli teaches that discipline is a tool, not a doctrine. Obedience alone does not create power. It merely masks vulnerability. The disciplined act as if mastery resides in repetition, while the elite manipulate order, timing, and perception to construct influence invisible to those trapped by habit. A cold awareness rises as you observe how routine blinds others. That awareness is not comfort. It is potential. You feel the constraints of self-imposed order, the pressure of expectation, and the monotony that breeds predictability. Machiavelli emphasizes that true control lies not in mechanical compliance, but in strategic deviation. You will learn to obey routines when it benefits you, building credibility and capacity while preserving the freedom to abandon them at a moment of maximum impact. Each deviation becomes a weapon, each unpredictability a lever over those who assume mastery is synonymous with obedience. The disciplined are constrained by fear of error. You are liberated by the calculus of advantage. Flexibility becomes the silent instrument of power. You sense the subtle advantage of being underestimated, of appearing constrained while navigating chaos invisibly. Observation, timing, and adaptation outweigh any rigid schedule. In negotiations, social maneuvering, or conflict, those who cling to routine falter under unexpected pressure. You, in contrast, exploit the assumptions others place upon predictable actors, bending outcomes without exposure. Machiavelli teaches that the disciplined are servants, the elite are architects of circumstance. Each calculated deviation is a stroke of unseen mastery, each break from habit a signal that you move beyond obedience into command. The thrill of covert control emerges as others react to your unpredictability, revealing weaknesses, miscalculations, and desires they believed hidden. Discipline, when weaponized, becomes camouflage, a mask for flexibility, a stage for strategic deviation. You wield habit to project order, while your mind quietly shapes reality. The disciplined operate within expectation. You operate above it. Mastery is not in blind repetition, but in the freedom to obey when necessary and to abandon when advantage demands. To ascend, you conceal deviation, manipulate perception, and allow adaptability to dictate true control. Those chained to routine will never see the architecture of influence, while you design outcomes in plain sight, untouchable and inevitable. The ultimate truth solidifies. Obedience creates the illusion of mastery, but real power lives in the ability to transcend it. Discipline is the mask. Unpredictability, flexibility, and strategic deviation are the engine. Those who recognize this move silently, striking where the rigid fail, bending the world without revealing their hand. Mastery lies not in service to routine. It lies beyond obedience, in the calculated command of circumstance itself.